Welcome into Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast, presented by BetMGM. Brendan Glasheen, joined by the OG Friday crew. We've got Charlie DiSturco and Anthony DeBundo joining us for Friday Best Bets. You can hear Best Bets episodes every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday morning during the regular season. So subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. You can also find our video version of the pod on the Action Network YouTube page. We've got some more giveaways today. We promised these things, and then we got to come around and actually do it. So we're doing it. Thank you to everyone who's left us 5-star ratings and reviews. We will continue to give out winners throughout the month of May. 2 winners to hand out: Orlando Davis and Clemson PM. Davis with 4 S's. If that is you, and if you are Clemson PM, I would love to know what the PM means. Email podcast at actionnetwork.com to claim your prize. We'll do more giveaways next week. Okay, very good. 15-game slate. Cubs play today at Wrigley. We'll get to that. DeBundo will explain if the Cubs are a play or not a play. There's a tease for you. 15-gamer. We'll start with best bets. Charlie, what do you got for us today? Best bet for Friday's slate, May 3rd.
Yeah, so heading out to Pittsburgh and taking the over between 2 horrible pitchers, Cal Quantrill, Martin Perez. I believe the 8s are all gone in the market, still fine with 8.5. Cal Quantrill, has been on decline every single season since his luck box a few years ago, a near 6 xFIP and FIP right now. And his strikeout rate has, continually dipped, and now it sits around 12%. So this is a guy that doesn't strike out batters, relies on just filling up the zone and, generating weak contact. And his BABIP is just 269. So, looking at this Pittsburgh offense, obviously it's not anything incredible right now. They've been in a huge slump the last couple of weeks, but I do think that this is, a perfect opportunity to scratch off a few runs against, a lesser starting pitcher. And then, of course, I think the last time I was on the podcast, I talked about Martin Perez and how he's somehow still kicking it. And he's, he's somehow getting by with flying colors, despite the underlying metrics saying not. He has a 286 actual ERA. Expected metrics right around the mid-4s, so nearly 2 runs higher than expected, thanks to a career high strand rate, which is right around 78%. Another guy that relies on pitching to contact, generating weak contact, yet his hard hit rate is nearly 50%. He's giving up just a quarter of a home run per 9, so that's going to negatively regress toward him. So it's ugly. It's 2 pretty bad offenses. Pittsburgh, Colorado are nothing to really gawk at, but I do think that this is a great opportunity for both to scratch off a few runs. We saw Colorado's offense be a bit live in Mexico City, even with the elevation factor, coming over to Pittsburgh. I still think Colorado bats should be live here against an overrated lefty in Martin Perez. Both bullpens below average. David Bednar, even if he gets into the 9th, I don't even feel confident with Pittsburgh closing the door. So think that this over is still undervalued at 8.5, and I'd bet it up to, minus 120.
All right. Very good. Martin Perez is back in your life. Welcome back, Charlie. It's been a bit.
Thank you. Yes, I was in Chicago.
Charlie didn't run away.
5, but
he didn't run away.
Charlie was away investigating Cubs .5.
Yes, I was boots on the ground.
We sent him on location, do some advanced scouting ahead of today's game.
Unfortunately, a rain out put Javier Assad in the starting position instead of Shota Imanaga, which is why I was trying to go see them. But
Javi's still, he's having a good year. The thing with Perez is that he always had problems with homers in the past. I do wonder if going to Pittsburgh has kind of helped him a little bit, because it's a tough park for homers, and maybe that's saved some of the homers off of his number. But yeah, 0.25 per 9, definitely some regression coming for Martin. Rockies against a lefty is always scary, but I generally agree with Charlie as well. My best bet, I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Dodgers, minus 115 against the Atlanta Braves. The series of the weekend.
Yeah, can I jump in quickly? There is not one of these games is on a national platform this weekend. The 2 favorites to win the World Series, Braves, Dodgers, not one. I'm
surprised it's not Apple TV. It's not Apple TV.
It's got the Apple TV. They wanted the real best team in the NL East on Apple TV.
Oh, and the Phillies do play.
It's MLB Network, Brendan.
Say it again.
Tonight, it's MLB Network.
That doesn't count. That's like saying an NBA games. An NBA, they bury if it's the NBA playoffs, they put a game on NBA TV.
Okay,
if it's
fair.
Well, why it is, Brendan.
Why? I know the
Because
pitching match
usually
kind of stink this
TBS or
weekend,
TNT would pick up one of those games, but they have all the NBA stuff
I
and the
guess,
NHL.
but Fox Saturday, ESPN Sunday, not a single Dodgers Braves game.
Yeah, it's surprising.
Sorry, go.
So you got MLB TV.
I know, but you trying to grow the sport. I know you. I know you have MLB TV. I know DeBundo has it. I know everyone at Action has it. I know the diehards have it, but I don't know.
But yeah.
Who is the Sunday night game this week?
It's Phillies and Giants.
Well, you got two, classic franchises there. Anyway, I like the Dodgers here. And it's interesting because if you just pull up Gavin Stone's profile, you would think, not a whole lot to like. 16% strikeout rate, 11% walk rate. It's pretty bad. He's had a pretty mediocre start here, but the underlying stuff is all a lot better. The fastball looks good. The changeup looks really good. His swinging strike rate is above league average. His called strike rate is below league average. So what you're seeing is that hitters are kind of jumping him early. And that's one thing Atlanta likes to do. They like to swing early in counts. And he's generated a good amount of weak contact with those early pitches. And he's throwing a lot of first pitch strikes. So I think Stone has some strikeouts coming. I think his numbers are clearly deflated if you just look at the overall strikeout number and you compare it to if you put together his called strike number and his swinging strike rate, what should his strikeout rate be? All of it leads to me liking the Dodgers here because Charlie Morton, I think, is in clear decline. If you look at his strikeout rate, it's trending downward, the lowest he's had since 2015 when he was a sinker baller in Pittsburgh. And it's accompanied by a significant decline in swinging strike rate to the point where he is now below league average in swinging strike rate. It's pretty much just that curveball that gets his whiffs now. His fastball is very hittable. I think with the Dodgers being at home and having the better pitcher in this game, they should be a bigger favorite. So I'm going to take the Dodgers minus 115 against the Braves. Atlanta's offense is always terrifying and they can score at any time. But I think that the Dodgers with a rested bullpen as well, for at least the first game, have the advantages. The Braves have the much deeper and I think overall better bullpen. But when you just line up the A bullpens, the Dodgers are just as good. So I like LA tonight.
Okay. And Gavin Stone's been, he had a rough start against the Mets, but he's been good in the last couple starts. Kind of surprised that that line is so short on the Cubs or on the Cubs. See, I'm thinking about the Cubs on the Dodgers.
The Cubs are always on your mind.
Yeah. Well, we talked about wind and I teased it at the top of the show. I'm just excited. It's a Cubs day game at Wrigley. Give me a break. But yeah, that, I mean, that's a good point though about NHL and NBA playoffs on TBS and TNT, but Dodgers, Braves, there you go. And I get it. No. Baseball probably thinks we're going to get buried anyway by those other playoff games. So maybe they don't care right now, but.
Who's the Fox game Saturday?
The Fox game Saturday. I just had it up. It's right here. It's you have the option of Mets, Rays,
World Series preview,
or Mariners and Astros, which is a good transition because the Houston Astros are a freaking mess. Public likes the Astros today. 76% of the bets, 88% of the money on Houston over Seattle today. Pitching matchup in this one features. We've got two arms going. We got George Kirby and Ronel Blanco. It also gives us a moment to discuss the issues with the Houston Astros, and both of you have bets that are on the other side, on Seattle. So you guys are, I guess, in a way, DeBundo, I'll let you go first because you're going aside here. You like Kirby and the Mariners over the first five. Why?
Yeah, so Fangraphs had a really interesting article out about Kirby and kind of how we quantify command. Because, if you've listened to this show, if you've ever listened to me on this show, you probably know about Stuff Plus because I talk about it all the time. But I think it's interesting that we don't really have a great way of measuring command all the time. We look at walk rates, but it's hard to truly, dial down on command. And Fangraphs wrote about Kirby and kind of trying to come up with a new way of showing command or predicting command in pitchers with limited samples. And George Kirby was the guy who was kind of the poster child of this because in his MLB career, he had a 4% walk rate his first year, dipped to 2.5% last year, 3% this year. It's next level elite command. And the thing about Kirby is it's not just a command profile because he's always had good stuff. And the fastball velocity is up this year. And as a result, his strikeout rates jumped from 22% to 28%. Swinging strike rate is up. He's in the zone a lot, which can leave him to be prone to get hit, but he's also now getting more whiffs in the zone. And that is the key for him taking that step from very good pitcher to elite Cy Young level starter that I think he's kind of in the midst of doing. So I'm a buyer in Kirby. I think it's real. And if you look at just how good his fastball is, and with some solid secondaries, I think he has the potential to play up. Even the one really horrible start he had, a lot of it was batted ball luck against Cleveland. A lot of singles through the hole, et cetera, et cetera. And on the other side, Ronel Blanco, also good. I mean, if you look at his controlling of contact quality, it's been really impressive. He's allowed a 25% hard hit rate. He keeps the ball down. He's been really effective. But the thing about Blanco is if you look at the strikeout minus walk rate, there is just no way he's going to sustain this. And I think there is some regression coming. His first pitch strike rate is down. It's below average. And against this Seattle lineup, which is very patient, you're going to fall behind in counts. And I think that's going to be a problem for Blanco tonight. The other thing about Seattle, which is fascinating, they went and the whole goal of the summer for Seattle, winter, I keep saying summer, the goal of the winter for Seattle was to stop striking out so much. They had one of the highest rates in the league. They got rid of Suarez. They got rid of Teoscar. They brought in guys like Polanco and Garver who have much lower strikeout rates. And then all of their hitters started striking out more. So I think there's something going on at T-Mobile Park with the Seattle offense where they bring in these guys who have career 23, 24% strikeout rates, Garver and Polanco, and now they're striking out 30% of the time. It's kind of insane. And it's, across the whole entire roster, they're striking out more than they should be. So I think getting out of that park is almost a good thing for Seattle's offense. They tend to hit better on the road. And I think that Seattle's got the much better pitcher and should be a bigger favorite than the minus 105 F5 out there. So give me the Mariners. George Kirby.
Mariners lineup has struck out the most in baseball entering the month of May. So,
and like I said, they went out and tried to find guys who struck out less, and then they all just saw their strikeout rates increase. And if you go by StatCast Park Factors, T-Mobile Park is the number one for strikeouts. Teoscar Hernandez himself commented on the fact that he felt like it was really hard to hit in that ballpark, and that's why his strikeout rate went up. People are always dubious of that because they're like, oh, the player's just making excuses. And, maybe it's true. Teoscar's home strikeout rate at Dodger Stadium is lower this year than it was last year at T-Mobile, even though his overall strikeout rate is up this season for the Dodgers.
All right, Charlie, your favorite bet in this game is not a side or a total. You are turning to Julio Rodriguez, who at the moment at BetMGM is now 25-1 to win American League MVP.
Yeah. Julio Rodriguez is finally, I think, turning the ship. If you look at his recent 2-week stretch, you can see that he's starting to make more contact. He's starting to hit the ball in the air and harder. Just everything in general on his graph is steadily on the rise. And so I like this matchup for him. You look at Ronel Blanco. One thing that Anthony didn't mention is that while he does have extremely low hard hit rate, a lot of his other metrics seem near impossible to sustain. He has a 173 batting average on balls in play, has a near 90% strand rate. So these are things of elite stuff that I don't even know if Jacob deGrom could have done and sustained for, the better part of 2 to 3 months. So at some point, I think everything's going to turn. Anthony has a little bit more balls of steel than I do to take the Seattle because that was where I was looking originally, first game that I circled. But I ended up going with an alternative route, and that was with J-Rod over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBI, just because where he sits in the order, he should have plenty of RBI chances. He has enough extra base power and home run power, even though the home runs have not come to change the game in one swing of a bat. He's still in the top 20% of all hitters in average exit velocity with a near 47%, 48% hard hit rate. So, the numbers are still there for J-Rod. The success has not fully come. He's starting to play better of late. I think it all culminates in a great game against the Astros, where I think Seattle kind of has its edge. And like Anthony said, away from home might be a nice positive for the Mariners and J-Rod. So over 1.5 hits, runs, RBI, minus 130 at our friends at MGM. And also the two of Blanco's 3 best pitches. He's a fastball, slider, changeup guy. Fastball, slider is where J-Rod is best. Year over year in major leagues, all 3 seasons, he's had on his Baseball Savant page a huge red good grade on the fastball and slider. So think that this is a great matchup for him to, do some damage.
either of you have thoughts on the Astros when they might turn this around, or if they're in actual trouble? I mean, 9 games under 500 is pretty dangerous.
They're in real trouble.
Yeah.
I think when you look at their numbers, like it's hard to now do the math on it and say, how do they get to 90 wins? Because the AL wildcard race looks to be very competitive. I do expect Texas, Seattle, and most of the East to be in that race. And even the Central now, 4 of the 5 Central teams are over 500 by multiple games. And even if they're worse teams, they're banking wins. So it's going to take the Astros playing like 100-win pace, I think, to even make the playoffs to get to 90 wins. Are they capable of that with Verlander looking like he does and Valdez just, coming back tomorrow? There's a lot of uncertainty. And the thing is, what do they do with the deadline? Because Bregman's contract is up. Valdez's contract is up. They could actually move these guys. Bregman has not been hitting. No power from him whatsoever.
He's been awful.
Even though I think the Astros will obviously play much better, I think they could easily play at a 90-win pace the rest of the season. That wouldn't get them in the playoffs anymore. So, the math starts getting harder when you're 10 games under 500 in May.
Yeah.
Ronaldo Blanco likes to use the one thing I've liked about Blanco is that the changeup has neutralized lefties. So he uses the slider against the righties. But, like you said, Rodriguez hit the slider well. Julio's been a slow starter before. We've seen this the last 2 years. So I'm not too concerned about Julio. I think he might be too far out of the MVP race now, but he's not incapable of going on a Linsanity run for 4 months.
Right. And also just like the injuries keep piling up. Like obviously you say Valdez comes back, Verlander came back, Javier should come back soon. Chas McCormick lands on the IL. And it seems like the back end of this Astros offense is really where the chink in the armor is. Cause yes, you have Tucker. Yes, you have Jordan. Yes, you have Altuve, but then and Pena's playing great, but then you have like John Singleton and Jose Abreu's can't figure out his swing and
back to
starting.
single A.
Yeah. So I think there are real concerns, not only with how this bullpen is not really being able to, find its stride. Maybe it's a little bit of a, from a deep playoff run that they're still kind of tired. But yeah, I would press the panic button, especially with all the injuries that keep piling up for Houston.
Their latest up-to-date win total, 85.5 wins.
Yeah, that seems about right, which puts them at 45% to make the playoffs. Max. 85 wins is not making the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd be very shocked if 85 won, and given how bad some of the bottom of the AL is. I think 85 is not enough.
Dakota still has them at 88 wins and winning the West, which is
could happen. 88 probably is going to be enough.
Yeah. I mean, if with the return of Valdez, with the return of Javier, you'd hope that they're pitching, especially with the way Blanco's pitching, that they would play better. It's definitely mind-boggling how bad they've been.
Altuve is also playing through injury, so that's a concern. He's still producing, so it doesn't really matter, but he's not healthy.
All right, there's your state of the Astros, and the public likes them today against George Kirby and the Mariners. Astros are home, minus 120 on the money line for the Astros, but Tabundo likes Mariners first 5, and Charlie's turning to Julio Rodriguez in the prop market. How about an underdog for this Friday slate, Tabundo?
Let's go with the Detroit Tigers, plus 142 against the New York Yankees. Reese Olson might be in the midst of a little bit of a breakout here. I wrote about this in Opening Pitch, which is up now at the Action Network. He kind of profiled similarly to some guys who have the fastball slider, where the fastball is not great, so they try to hide it with the slider. And if you look at some of the guys who that fits, the name that immediately came to mind for me, there were 2. Brandon Pfaadt, Kyle Bradish. Those were the 2 names, guys who I bet on a lot in the last couple of years, really liked. Neither had a great fastball. Both guys rely on the slider a lot to get most of their outs. Now, Pfaadt had major problems with platoon splits. He didn't really have another pitch that he could use. Bradish, his problem was the fastball wasn't any good, and he would get hit hard on the fastball, so he tried to hide it as much as he could. Now, there's 2 ways you can improve off of that. Pfaadt really hasn't taken that step forward, and he still struggles to get lefties out. Lefties are mauling him this year, but Olson has the changeup, and I think that's the big key because he has an ability to get lefties out, where his OPS against lefties last year was actually pretty good relatively to average. and he was good against both sides. So having two good breaking pitches off speeds, the breaking, the slider and the change gives him a good out pitch against the lefty, and that's a major key for him. So the fastball still has to get better for him to take that step forward. That's what we saw from Bradish. So Bradish's fastball wasn't very good, and it got better last year, and that's what enabled him to have the huge breakout season where he, almost won the Cy Young and was, an elite starter and whatnot. So Olson still doesn't have a great fastball, but the slider change, I think, is the key for him. It keeps hitters off balance. It gives him an off-speed pitch to hide, to get outs against righties and lefties. So I think there's real upside for Olson. He's had 20 strikeouts in his last 16 innings. So you're seeing that strikeout rate. It's always been up and down with him, but I think there's upside for more strikeouts because of the off-speed stuff being really good. And, Marcus Stroman is kind of the other end of it, where the Yankees gave him this cutter and it looked really good the first couple starts, got a lot of whiffs, but now it's getting crushed. I mean, the the cutter rather is allowing a 550 slug and 6+100 X slug, and he doesn't command it that well. So the walk rate is up. His walk rate's up. His strikeout rate is also at a career high, but the underlying metrics don't really support it. I think there's some regression coming for Stroman from a strikeout perspective, more walks coming for him. And I just think there's some downside risk with this pitch mix and maybe not quite working for Stroman, even though I definitely remember saying on this podcast, like the third week of the season, that I was betting Stroman. So that's kind of where we're at now with Marcus. And I like the Tigers because I think Olson has some upside potential and Stroman has some downside risk.
Charlie, where are you looking for an underdog today?
Yeah, heading out to Texas, money line, the Rangers against Brady Singer. Just more. This is a big one of just fading potential negative regression candidate in Brady Singer. His underlying metrics just show that he's due for some negative regression. His expected ERA nearly 2 runs higher than actual. A strand rate around 86% is unsustainable, especially when you look at other metrics like Singer's BABIP 209. He's walking batters more. He's still giving up the same amount of barrels. So it's not like he's, magically limiting barrels or whatever it is. He's not striking out more hitters. He's putting more guys on base with walks, and he's just benefiting from, BABIP luck. And so, you look into the underlying metrics a little bit more too. Brady Singer stuff plus grades out right around like a little bit below league average, right around the 89, 90 mark. So this is just a guy that I think has been able to kind of cruise by a bit on the luck box side of things. This is a plus money play on the Rangers right now. Michael Lorenzen's not anything. I'm going to not tell you to, throw a lot on Michael Lorenzen all the time. He's not that great. He's about league average. His xFIP's right around 4.3, 4.4. Kansas City, they don't walk that much, which is the one positive. They're right around 19th, 20th in walk rate. In their middle of the pack in that when it comes to walking. So, and that's Lorenzen's ultimate downfall, is that his control at times he relies on swings out around the corners and edges of the zone and sometimes outside. So just think that this is a good matchup for Texas. They're top 10 in WRC plus against righties and in isolated power against righties. Think that this is like a game that everything culminates in some positive regression for the Rangers offense, some negative regression on Brady Singer's end. Don't think, given the price, even though this game's in Kansas City, that the Rangers should be underdogs. I would bet them all the way to, minus 110, 115, which is where I think the line ultimately ends up.
Okay. Minus 105 right now at BetMGM as we record on a Friday morning. All right, a couple more for you guys, and then we'll get out of here. DeBundo, go ahead. Your final.
You didn't
final
think we'd do a whole payoff pitch episode where I wouldn't mention Aaron Nola or the Philadelphia Phillies.
Apple TV.
Apple TV tonight, yes. Section 137.
Come say 640 on Apple TV.
Yeah,
but nothing for Braves and Dodgers. But go ahead.
So we'll start with the wind report. Easterly wind today, which is unusual at Citizens Bank Park, but it's a bit of a crosswind from the first base side.
Is this your weather voice?
Yes.
Could
knock down some fly balls to right, maybe, but really not really a particularly meaningful wind at the bank tonight. But the total is still at 8 at multiple books, including BetMGM. I don't agree with that. Aaron Nola had a really rough first 3 starts. He pitched in bad weather. He pitched in the cold, and his strikeout to walk rate was 10 strikeouts to 8 walks in his first 15 innings. Really bad. Swinging strike rate was down. Like everything just looked off. The velocity was down. Well, the weather got better, and Nola looks like a rejuvenated pitcher. He has struck out 25 batters, 28 batters in his last 25 innings, and he's been really impressive in limiting the walks too. So 28-3 strikeout to walk ratio. Nola's swinging strike rate has spiked again. The velocity looks better. Peak Aaron Nola these last 3 outings, and I know the Rockies were involved in that, so you could take that with a grain of salt. And there's been some bad offenses that he's faced, but he just also had a great outing against the Padres as well. So encouraged by Nola, think he's trending up, and think Jordan Hicks is continuing to be undervalued as a starter. I mean, he used to be like a flamethrower who had terrible command. He's still throwing the sinker, but it's a credit to the Giants pitching lab and the pitching development they do, where they just give everybody sinkers and get a bunch of ground balls, and it's really effective. Ground ball rate 58%. That always plays at Citizens Bank Park, where home runs are aplenty usually. And he's getting good results on that sinker. Even though he's throwing at 95, he's in the zone more. He's walking fewer guys. And yeah, he's getting fewer strikeouts. But like I said, the ball's on the ground, so you're not going to do a ton of damage with that. Both bullpens are fully rested. Under 8 for me at -115. I'd play under 7.5 at -105 as well.
Charlie, what else you got? And by the way, the Blue Jays and the Nationals with Yusei Kikuchi and Patrick Corbin is your second leg of the Apple TV doubleheader that is happening simultaneously.
Zerillo, I saw a bet the under at 9, and I think that's like 2 straight starts where he's had money on Corbin pitching better than the market thinks, which is a real turnaround for Sean.
Yeah, I'm not going to that game. The only other bet that I have is I was looking at Vlad total bases, but oddly enough, I was looking at Vlad's underlying metrics, just like talking out loud here. Against lefties, he has like no power, which is like pretty interesting. Like every hit this year against left-handed pitching has been singles, and then even last year, his isolated power was like extremely minimal against lefties, which comes as a little bit surprise for a right-handed hitter and a guy of like Vlad's stature that ranks so highly in barrel rate and hard hit rate and all of that. But anyway, my last bet is just the Dodgers. I don't really have to add more to the one, though. He kind of, encapsulated it great. I don't think the Braves offense has been playing, otherworldly. Like that, like a lot of them have been slumping. Olsen in particular, Acuna hasn't been that great either. So I think this is a good spot to buy on the Dodgers offense to just kind of mash Charlie Morton. I like Gavin Stone's ceiling higher than Morton, so going to back them as well. I was going to say the only reason they're not on primetime TV today is because the last time Gavin Stone pitched on primetime, all you heard for 2 innings was change up out of the pitch comm of Kike Hernandez. So, but yeah, like the Dodgers here, -110, 115, wherever it is at, and that's the last bet of the day for me.
That might have been Sunday Night Baseball.
It was when DJ Burns was beating up Duke, and then simultaneously Kike Hernandez was just giving away every pitch that Gavin Stone was throwing, which was changeup.
It was Easter, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, Easter Sunday. Yep.
It's the Cardinals?
Yes. Look at your guys' memory. So good.
Well,
That's why you guys eat your green.
I haven't watched a Dodger game all year, actually. I've kind of missed the Dodgers. Besides
the Cardinals were winning, and then Max Muncy broke them at the end. Because I think some of you at Action were into the
little Otani.
Into the Cardinals that night on the money line. So anyway, have fun, everybody, this weekend trying to find Dodgers and Braves if you don't have Apple TV, because they're not going to be found anywhere.
MLB Network.
MLB Network tonight, yes, at 10:10.
Do we have any good pitching matchups? Who else is pitching in that series?
Max Free, Tyler Glasnow, and Bryce Elder go tomorrow night.
Oh God!
And then
Braves money line.
Sunday night baseball. Well, they play at 4.
Freed
Paxton. Oof.
So it's not great.
We got Elder, and then we got Paxton back-to-back days. Rough.
All right, very good. Find Charlie and Anthony in the free-to-download, award-winning Action Network app, should they add anything else for tonight's slate over the weekend. Also, check out our Action Network Discord channel. There is a link to said channel in the episode description if you would like to extend your baseball betting community. And also, it's a good way to pick the brains of our contributors. They are often in there, including Sean Kerner and his K-props in Major League Baseball. For Anthony DeBundo, Charlie DeSturco, Brendan Glasheen. Payoff pitch Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays during the season. So that means we're back on Monday. Thanks for listening to Payoff Pitch, MLB's Action Network's MLB betting podcast presented by BetMGM. Have a fabulous weekend. Oh, hold on a minute. Quick, 30 seconds. Cubs. Why are the Cubs on a play today at 2:20?
The wind is blowing in. So, hey, Chicago, what do we say? We do not say Cubs 0.5. Enjoy the game, though. Hayden Wesneski. Excited to see what he looks like. Maybe a potential post-hype breakout because I hyped him last year and he sucked. So this year, maybe he'll be good. You never know. I have to see more before I have a true opinion on that.
Almost buried the tease. Okay, so no edge on the Cubs today. No Cubs run line this afternoon at 2:20. Okay, that's it. We're done. Have a great weekend.